Hello, everyone. Today we're going to explore a topic that directly impacts every household in the United States: the cost of tariffs on consumers. Hope this session helps you broaden your knowledge and insight.
Interested in what's happening in the world now? You're watching Global Issues.
The tariff strikes back. How the tariff U.S. has imposed on other countries are affecting the average consumers in USA. Often tariffs are seen as a tool for trade policy, but their effects ripple down directly to the average American. They essentially act as a hidden tax, leading to higher prices for everyday goods, reducing our ability to buy as much, and sometimes limiting what we can choose from. It's important to note that this burden isn't evenly distributed. It often hits working class and low-income families the hardest, as they spend a larger proportion of their income on these affected essentials. Let's break down the mechanism of how tariffs translate into higher costs. It's a fairly straightforward process, visualized here in this simple flowchart. First, a tariff is imposed on imported goods. This is a tax levied by the U.S. government, not on the foreign producer, but on the U.S. importing company. Next, to maintain their profit margins, these importing companies typically pass that increased cost directly onto consumers. Think of it as an added fee that gets tacked onto the price tag you see at the store. But the impact doesn't stop there. Even domestically produced goods can see price increases. This happens for two main reasons. Either local manufacturers face higher costs for their own imported raw materials, like steel or aluminum, or they simply raise their prices to match the now more expensive imported alternatives, aiming for higher profit margins. Now let's look at some key performance indicators that highlight the significant economic impact of the tariffs. Perhaps the most striking figure is the estimated annual cost per household, an average of $2,400. This is a direct financial burden that American families are facing due to these trade policies. The overall effective U.S. tariff rate has reached 22.5% as of April 2025. To put that into perspective, this is the highest rate we've seen since 1909, indicating a substantial shift in our trade landscape. And it's not just about household costs. Tariffs are also projected to negatively impact our national economic growth, with a projected hit of 0.9 percentage points to real GDP growth in 2025. This means a slower economy overall. This bar chart illustrates where consumers are feeling the pinch most acutely. We're seeing significant short-term price increases across a wide array of product categories. Notice how consumer technology, like laptops and video game consoles, are projected to see some of the highest increases, with laptops and tablets potentially rising by as much as 68% and consoles by 58%. This could mean hundreds of dollars more for these items. Apparel and leather goods are also heavily impacted, given their reliance on imports, with increases up to 40% for leather goods and 37% for apparel. Even everyday essentials like fresh produce and automobiles are not immune, with notable percentage increases. These aren't just abstract numbers. These are real price hikes on items we buy regularly. Beyond just the price increases, it's crucial to understand how American households are coping. This donut chart reveals a concerning trend regarding consumer preparedness. Only a small fraction, just 20% of American consumers feel truly prepared to absorb these rising costs. A significant portion, 31%, state they are not prepared at all, and nearly half, 49%, are unsure or only somewhat prepared. This highlights a widespread vulnerability among consumers. Despite a majority of Americans believing tariffs increase prices, there's a clear disconnect in their ability to manage these financial pressures, underscoring the real-world stress these policies are creating. The impact of tariffs isn't just theoretical, it's actively changing consumer behavior. People are already making tangible adjustments to their spending habits to cope with rising prices. Nearly half of Americans, 49%, are now cooking more at home. This indicates a shift away from dining out or prepared meals as a cost-saving measure. We also see a significant portion, 45%, cutting back on impulse purchases and 44% ordering less takeout. These are direct responses to a tighter budget. Furthermore, for discretionary items like cosmetics, a modest 10% price increase is enough to make 61% of consumers stop buying them altogether. This shows how sensitive consumers are to price changes, especially when it comes to non-essentials. In conclusion, the evidence is clear. Tariffs, while a policy tool, ultimately function as a tax on American consumers. They are driving broad price increases across numerous categories, diminishing our purchasing power, and forcing significant shifts in consumer behavior and global supply chains. As the full effects of the most recent tariffs continue to unfold, we can expect these impacts to intensify, further challenging household budgets and influencing the broader economic landscape. All the data presented today is sourced from public reports and economic analyses, with the most recent figures available as of August 2025. Once again, thank you for joining us today. Please keep in mind that this content is AI generated, and the opinion in this piece is purely personal, does not represent any organization or personnel's thoughts or opinion. For further inquiries, be free to leave any comments below or contact by email. Also, if you enjoyed this content, please press like and subscribe.